Are you an Amazon seller, but you're not getting the sales that you thought you would? One of the most demoralizing things for new sellers is when they're all excited about a new business model, they jump 90 miles an hour into it, don't get the results that they're looking for out of the gate, and then they burn out and they get hopeless. And these days, we're bombarded with videos of other people succeeding with that business all over social media, which often leaves us wondering why all these other people are successful and where we went wrong. I get it. I've been there, and chances are you're overlooking one of these simple things. So in this video, we're going to cover 6 things to keep in mind to make sure you're maximizing your sales on Amazon. Checking off all these boxes will ensure that your Amazon game is as strong as possible. So first and foremost, make sure that you're using a repricing software. If you're trying to compete on Amazon without a repricing software, you're seriously going to struggle. It's that simple. The way Amazon listings are set up means you're competing with other sellers on each listing in order to win those sales. Price is the biggest factor when it comes to winning the buy box on Amazon. And there are so many softwares out there that can help make sure your prices are as competitive as possible. That way you can make as many sales as possible and ultimately as much money as possible. For beginners, I always recommend the free repricer that comes in Seller Central. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles of some of the more expensive ones out there, but it's completely free, so it will keep your costs low. Plus, it works fairly well for being free. You can learn how a repricer works before you spend hundreds of dollars per month on a fancy one if you do decide to upgrade in the future. And it does the main things that you need it to do, which is match the buy box price, match the lowest price, and set your minimum price so it never prices you out of your profit. Second is a fairly obvious one for most sellers, but I do still see some people not doing it. So you want to ship your products into FBA. This isn't always the case for everybody, for example, drop shippers, but it is for most people. If you're doing arbitrage, wholesale, private label, and you're not shipping your products into FBA, you're competing with one hand tied behind your back. As we touched on in number 1, price is the most important factor when it comes to getting the buy box on Amazon and winning sales. But the second most important thing is the availability to the customer. That means if your product can be shipped to the customer in, say, 2 to 3 days, and you're competing against somebody whose product won't get to the customer until 4 to 5 days, you have a major advantage. Plus, you can often charge more money for the same exact product because of this. And the easiest way to cut your shipping time and increase the availability to the customer is to ship your products into FBA. Number 3 is to understand listing demand and the expected sales. It is crucial to understand demand on a listing versus the competition that's on that listing and how to gauge both to make informed decisions. This will help you understand how many products to source for each listing, how fast you can expect them to sell, and what the current competition climate on each listing looks like. For example, let's say that you're sourcing products for a listing that doesn't have much expected sales. Well, you won't make any sales. But just the same, if you're sourcing for a listing that has a lot of competitors, you'll be competing with a lot of other sellers and it'll take longer to sell. This is, of course, more than an art than a science, but there are tools out there that can give you more data than ever on every single one of these important things so you can make the best, most informed decision possible and become a master at judging listings. To get immediate data on the expected sales each listing has, I recommend the Jungle Scout Chrome extension. To get immediate insight on all the competition on a listing and how much inventory each seller has, I'd recommend you look into a free Google Chrome extension called Online Seller Add-on. To check the sales history and history of prices on a listing, you can use Keepa. And you can just use the free version. You don't need to pay for that either. These are just 3 examples of the ways that you can get more data on the current and past sales and current and past competition on a listing so you can make better purchasing decisions overall. Number 4 is to avoid selling on listings where Amazon is a seller. Again, this is not always a steadfast rule and it isn't always the case. But it is important to understand that Amazon will only share the buy box with all other sellers on a listing about 20% of the time. So while you can source products for a listing that Amazon does sell on, you certainly want to curb your expectations and be more patient. For example, if Amazon is a seller on a listing that's getting 1,000 sales a month, and there are 3 other third-party sellers as well, that means that Amazon will share about 200 of those sales per month, assuming of course that they don't run out of stock. Those remaining 200 sales will be split among you and the remaining sellers. So in a vacuum, assuming that all sellers are 100% equal, you could expect about 50 sales per month from that listing. Keep in mind though that you never sell in a vacuum, of course. That example is just for teaching purposes. I do personally source for listings where Amazon is a seller if and only if I'm expecting to be profitable and make sales based on all these factors. Put simply, I don't avoid them for the sake of avoiding them, but, and this is the only caveat, if they're the only seller on a listing, I typically see that as a red flag and then I do avoid it. 5 is to master customer service. Now, your seller metrics and seller feedback score play a large role in how often you can win the buy box against other sellers. Keeping your metrics up by making sure that you're keeping customers happy and getting good feedback can literally be the difference between winning the buy box just a few percentage points more than if you didn't, which can ultimately mean dozens or maybe hundreds more sales per month and obviously a lot more money in your pocket. Do not sleep on this. Number 6 is to be patient, right? Your sales history also plays a large role in how often you win the buy box against other sellers. So if you're a newer seller, that's totally okay. You still will win the buy box. Just understand that in a vacuum, assuming your prices and availability to the customer are the same, you'll win it less against other sellers that have more sales history. Think of it as a trustworthiness score that Amazon uses to gauge how well you treat their customers. As you sell more, you'll start to win the buy box more and more, and then you'll have an advantage over other newer sellers in the future. And in my opinion, it's much better that it works this way as opposed to the opposite. So make sure you're doing all these consistently, and I'm willing to bet your sales will start trending upward.